Hey, 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 everybody. How's everybody doing out there? Hey, I hope that we're actually live. I don't know what's going on exactly with the stream. Can you guys see me? Anyway, I'm not exactly sure what's happening here. Oh wait, yeah, I think we are live. Yes, we are. So hey everybody, sorry there was just a weird glitch with the stream. I hate having shows start out like that because I try to be a consummate professional in everything that I do. But hey, that's just the way it goes. We're flying around today. We are doing great. Boy, the vibe is so wonderful. Everybody out there in the chat, I want to just say hello. You guys are so positive and fun, and everyone's having a good time. I gotta say, this is the best time I've ever had doing this video series in the entire year. All the pressure is off and all the information is flowing in. And of course, we have our amazing team behind me. Yes, I said team. I still have my team, and of course, you guys all know them, of the cops, Eric and Ruby, and all the people who stuck with me through the hard times, and we have emerged victorious. So it's really, really great to see everybody out there. Listen, we got some fun for you today. We got Son of Sam Theater happening today. Yes, as we continue along talking about these North Dakota transcripts. So of course today would not be complete without the following guest. Well, you all know him. And hell yes, you all love him. Moet, you might want to get your ears ready. May I present to you the one, the only. There he is, Eric Galati.
Yes. With each iteration, I told you, this is getting better and better with each new format you do, without a doubt.
Thank you so much, Eric.
You know, I'm not saying, I don't think you are, Berkowitz was alone or he's with others, but there's things to keep in mind here. I'm going to clarify something before we get off. It's over a year, May 5th, when you interviewed in your first iteration, True Crime Files, The Son of Sam Cult, homicide detective Hank Chinotti. I was gobsmacked that you found out where he lived. It was The Son of Sam Cult.
He told me directly right on the phone. He couldn't have been more open.
And he was secretive, right? It was May 5th, 2021. One important thing he said, I find it far-fetched that the Process Church of the Final Judgment was involved. You remember that?
I remember that. He said, I remember something he said. He said, local all the way.
Yeah, local. He didn't say there wasn't any occult involvement, but he just simply said, and there'll be a reason in the future why we are bringing this up now. He was honest. Now, I'm going to read one sentence I got in a private for other matters with my friend Peter Lavenda, who's greatly misunderstood. He never claimed to be a historian of this case to know the absolute truth. He just related this case because of the environment he was in, and he went to Berkowitz, the same high school. He was older. Here is something very brave and honest from him, because he never claimed to say, I know. How much of what I think I know was by innuendo rather than fact? I repeat, Peter Lavenda states, how much of what I think I know was by innuendo rather than fact? That is an honest man.
Now, let me just remind the audience that this email from Peter Lavenda to you was just sent to you the other day. This is not something from the archives. This is not something you found online.
June 18th.
Right.
He answered me. I wrote about a number of things because he's a friend. We'd speak about metaphysics and the occult. But he was in that environment that Rothstein on his own investigated, and Rothstein has always said, I never investigated the Son of Sam case. Even when interviewed by Maury Terry, it was about Marita Lorenz.
Somehow or other, Rothstein has emerged as the gold standard of excellence for Son of Sam, and I don't quite understand. People always still to this day throw it in my face. Well, Rothstein said on a show 10 years ago that the process was involved. Well, that's not what he told us in our extensive interviews. He said there was no Son of Sam. in fact.
Yeah, he's saying that for another reason, and we'll take
Right.
that another time. But
Right.
here's where the knowledge of Lavenda and of Rothstein overlaps. Rothstein went based upon Ace Brown in 1969, and he went to Pelham Bay Park, Van Cortlandt Park, and Untermeyer Park and Gardens, where there were rituals going on. He never said, I was investigating the son of Sam. This is 1969. But Peter Lavenda knew of this. And he says we were up to our eyes in the OTO, the Church of Satan, the process. There were also a number of demimonds that provided intersections between cults and, for instance, the homosexual community, as well as the fashion industry. So this whole thing was, so somehow Maury Terry took this. I don't know why. He's dead. I can't trash the guy, but there's an overlapping that has caused confusion. And the reason why people say Rothstein is the be-all and the end-all, or Peter Lavenda as an historian, is simply because they're not listening. They get excited when they hear sound bites. They're not reading.
But this goes back to my whole new thesis on Maury Terry. I'm calling him now the accidental genius, because Maury Terry, in researching Son of Sam, actually stumbled upon, I believe quite accidentally, but he stumbled upon and he exposed several other criminal conspiracies. He exposed the child trafficking pipeline to Untermeyer Park. Yes, it occurred. Yes, it happened. No, it had nothing to do with Son of Sam whatsoever. He exposed the occultists in Untermeyer Park who were sacrificing animals. Yes, it occurred. Yes, it happened. No, it had nothing to do with David Berkowitz. He also exposed, of course, the whole Operation Together, child trafficking, underground mafia, gay bar thing. And he exposed potentially this new and exciting avenue of research for Son of Sam people, the drug pipeline between North Dakota and Yonkers.
And that's my belief. I very rarely say theory. Let's say hypothesis. I believe in investigating the son of Sam and somebody affiliating the cause with David Berkowitz when he went from Yonkers, New York to Minot, North Dakota, believing he was specifically investigating the son of Sam. He actually, by default, was investigating a separate criminal activity of very important drug dealing. And
Totally.
and in my opinion, we're dealing with the United States Air Force also. The military, I'm not being unpatriotic, but the military is like a recording studio or Hollywood. It's a beautiful conduit for narcotics.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah. And there's all sorts of cultic activity in the military. I mean, the military is just weird. Probably most of it just has to do with boredom and lots of time on their hands. But yeah, so Eric, there's a lot of really positive and fun things going on right now. Of course, we'll get into that a little later in our show to make an announcement for the crowd. But why don't we just get into today's story?
Yeah.
Right.
We're going to cut in to where the certified legal investigator for Queens County, Michael Armienti, was questioning
Tom Taylor.
Tom Taylor.
And now we know his nickname. It's Tom Turkey Taylor.
Tom Turkey Taylor.
And the reason we know that we'll get into for you guys a little later. So, of course, today's episode is called Tom and Darlene Go to Yonkers. Now, real quick, we've been on a roll before we get into this with our shows the last couple of weeks. We've been getting it. We got these North Dakota documents, and we've been doing the most sober and hard-hitting analysis of them. And so far, the consensus is amongst my viewers and amongst the law enforcement professionals that I work with that those documents, those North Dakota documents, don't prove jack shit, to use a layman's terms, in terms of Son of Sam involvement of John Carr. And hey, you can disagree. We can debate that. That's all well and good. But we've been on this roll. This past Manny Monday, Eric, we had on John R. and Jim Fay and John Comparetto. I mean, where are you going to get this from anyone else?
3 detectives, and they're all honest. Each and every one of them keeps their minds open. They do have ideas. They're honest. They haven't told us one story that is an inch of falsehood. There are three honest guys.
Right. And these guys are giving us context like you wouldn't believe.
And then the artist, the guy who has an autistic temperament.
Oh,
I
your
love
favorite.
him, Mike Lorenzo Jr.
That's a great.
Let me just say one thing about how all of this overlaps, and I could see how Terry fell into a trap. A person I know, I can't name this person, who opened up to me, was lived on the streets, Christopher Street, frequented the Magical Child. Something happened to this person where that person could have died, and the life was saved in the Magical Child by whom? Ed Skull Murphy. Ed Skull Murphy at the Magical Child. You see how these things can easily be understood to have all been united. The
Right.
word chicken hawk in Manhattan saved this person's life.
In the Magical Child. So then you get, of course, the cult and the chicken hawks and the child trafficking and all the stuff that Maury put together as Son of Sam, making the story impossible to unravel for future researchers. The only reason we've been able to unravel it, Eric, is I believe that we were the first the first real Son of Sam research team to come along that was open-minded and honest with ourselves, that maybe there was another story here. And I think that left us just open enough to see the cracks in the facade.
And the honesty, your honesty, has made you be attacked by a Son of Sam community.
Oh, the latest today is somebody put my father's curriculum vitae up online, saying that he was an assemblyman during the A-Beam era in New York City. So therefore, he was involved in Son of Sam. First of all, my dad wasn't an assemblyman. If you read the curriculum vitae, it clearly says he was an assistant to an assemblyman. And the assemblyman, of course, was Leonard Stavisky from Queens. And then, of course, somebody proceeded to put up today that Louis Grossman from the Bronx in 1947, who was arrested for pornography, was my grandfather. And of course, that's not true either. So I mean, it's just insane stuff that's happening. I'm finding it entertaining, and I'm trying not to I don't get bent out of shape.
Why I brought that up is to make you feel well. Someone told me, who has an alternative view of the Manson family and has every single file you could imagine from the Los Angeles County, like you, has been attacked by the Manson community.
Yeah.
The story is not that of Ed Sanders and Vincent Bugliosi and Kurt Gentry. The same thing. It becomes a religion for these people.
Right. I mean, it's insane. I mean, I would put this post up that someone sent me today, but I don't want to even give these people any oxygen anymore. It's just ridiculous garbage. And, it's funny because when they do that, all it does is make me more resolved to be anti-conspiracy theory, because I get it. When people do that to me, and I know then that what they're saying is an absolute bald-faced lie, it gives me a lot of, ammunition against the conspiracy community in a sense, because I see how poor researchers you are, how easily duped and manipulated you can be. And, it makes me even more not wanting to go down the road of conspiracy. So, it's all fun and good games, but we're having a great time, Eric. And I think we should proceed with Tom and Darlene.
So
go to Yonkers.
So we're cutting in to where.
Well, hold on. We're not ready to start yet.
Ooh, my apologies.
No problem. So everyone, this was an extremely entertaining. So Jack Myers just brought up entertaining. Yes, and it's not entertaining when people go after your family. True. It is somewhat entertaining when they make up total lies and you can see how ridiculous it is. But in any case, this part of the transcript, Darlene and Tom go to Yonkers. And for everybody out there who has a copy of the transcript, it's pages 25 to 35, roughly.
36, yeah.
36. This part of the transcript is extremely interesting and entertaining, I should say. And it's not necessarily because any crimes are exposed or we learn anything dark and deep about the crimes of Son of Sam. But what this part of the transcript gives us is, all important context, right? More information, which is always better than less information when we as researchers need to make up our minds about something. So this part of the transcript gives us a rare glimpse into Wheat and Mike Carr. Eric, Wheat and Mike Carr make appearances in this transcript. We get
Yes.
we get some gleanings into their personalities.
And also others who seem minor, who become major in other areas of this investigation.
Correct. So this part of the transcript also allows us to get more of a glimpse into the Carr family. We hear a little bit about Sam, a little bit about Francis, and it's just I would rather, as a researcher, have more information than less. And of course, this part of the transcript also deals with the topic of Son of Sam, but not in the way that, well, you guys are probably thinking. So, with that in mind, we are now gonna do Son of Sam Theater, where Eric is going to play Tom Taylor, and I've also instructed him to keep the Southern accent because I will never forget. Like an asshole.
Like Dick Long Dixie.
All right, but
Robert E. Lee would have liked him.
yeah, exactly. But we're gonna go through this, and we're just going to we're just gonna read it as is, and then we're gonna analyze it, and we're gonna talk about it. So, Eric, if you want to set up the audience just for where we're gonna start.
Community. We were going to start with who showed you this letter, but we're led into talking about a letter. That's the main thing, from Armienti asking Taylor about the Minot telephone directory, which John Carr wrote a symbol on, and also wrote something on the Minot telephone directory that was like a warning.
Right. Well, right. We don't know what it was because Tom saw it in large letters. Darlene saw it in minute letters.
And then the question, was there an S or was there not an S?
Right. And this guy, this part of the cross, and what he saw was this was different and that was different. I don't think we could glean anything from their testimony. But Eric is correct that we are coming out of the scene where they were talking about the so-called Son of Sam symbol that so-called John Carr, so-called Drew. We're starting here now. The next scene is, of course, Tom and Darlene go to Yonkers.
And Tom has just told Armienti that on the telephone directory there was a warning in large letters.
Warning to whom?
To anybody, I would imagine, more or less to me and Darlene, because it was directed, that was where he was directing his thoughts. And I don't know where Darlene gets off on this, what she was saying about darkness and crap like that, because that wasn't there. His warning was very few words. It was like about 8 or 9 words altogether, very largely written. It reminded me very, very much when I saw that handwriting that guy showed me of the letter that was wrote to the editor of whatever paper in New York.
Who showed you this letter?
The detective that came down the first time.
Detective Chinati?
Chinotti, right. It reminded me very much. In fact, I was the one who reminded Darlene about that.
What did you say? What did you tell her?
I just said, hey, remember that shit, Darlene? Remember that shit that JC wrote in the Minot telephone book? And Darlene, all of a sudden, she remembers the shit,
Do you remember what the message or what the warning said in the back of the telephone directory?
No, I don't.
Was it in script or in print?
It was in print, and it was in I'd almost swear that it was the same print that I saw in that fucking letter. Excuse the swearing. It's just natural. I would almost swear to it in court.
Okay, and what happened after he wrote this down?
He mellowed out quite a bit. He mellowed out. He calmed down. Darlene came to bed. I don't remember if I saw JC that morning again when I got up or not. It's very possible that I did.
Okay, so
because I remember him showing me that note, that telephone directory. That where he wrote that, there was also a number on that, a number to call, and
In case of what?
I don't know what.
In what context did he leave a number?
He, I don't know. He never really got into that. He gave me a number. There was a number on that thing too. Besides his warning, I'm sure there was
Was it a telephone number?
a telephone number, a minor telephone number to call. And he didn't have a phone.
Who didn't have a phone?
JC didn't have a phone. No, because when we were living at the Virginia apartments, one of his big things was to come over and borrow the phone.
Was he heavily involved in drugs, JC?
Extremely.
Where? Do you know where he got his drugs?
No, I don't.
Was it of the quality usually found in this area?
No, not at all. It was very excellent. I mean, I'm not bragging or anything, but I know good drugs when I try it. And he had some shit that was ass kicking.
And he didn't say where he got that from.
No,
Did you ever get any drugs from Jeff?
no, I never did.
Do you know anyone who got drugs from Jeff?
No, I don't believe that I do. Because, see, you got to understand that the only reason that I knew Jeff was because JC and him were living together in the same place. And that's the only contact that I ever had with him, except one time. When I was going to New York to the funeral, I seen Jeff on the street one day. He stopped. He actually stopped and got out and talked to me. And
Was Jeff still in the Air Force?
yes,
That would be February of 1978
right.
or March of 1978.
No.
March of 1978?
No. It was, yeah. Either January or February.
Well, John died February,
What was the day?
February 23rd.
Okay. Then it must have been around that. Yeah, all right. See, like I say, I'm real bad with dates, real bad with dates. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know that John had come back to town. I knew that he had come back to see us. Darlene and I were living in these estates. And he was saying that he was going back home because his dad wanted him to help build upstairs or some bullshit. And they had, his sister had some kind of a phone answering service or whatever. And he was going to go back home and get his act together with his folks because Linda had agreed to marry him and they were going to do all this shit. And the next thing I knew, I don't even know what date it was. It must have been a Friday or something. What day did he die?
I'm not sure of the date.
Okay, well, whatever it was, he shot himself the day before. And about noon the next day, I got a call by a guy named Chink. And I don't know what his real name is because, God, I never have. And he called me and asked me if I knew that JC had come back to town. And I go, no, shit, I thought he was in New York.
What do you know about Chink?
He's a normal dude,
Was he involved in any cult activity that you know of?
Not that I know of. You see, you got to understand, I didn't even realize that the cult activity was being carried on until just recently. I mean, I'm talking about the last month, and at that time I thought, wow, man, Darlene freaked out because I freaked out. I had a real heavy guilt trip. So did she. See, JC had come out to our house quite a few times and damn near going on his hands and knees and begged me just to let him fucking sleep in the corner of the house just so he could have somebody there around him all the time to talk to and shit, you know. But Darlene was so afraid of him because of the way he had acted when we were living at the Virginia apartments and shit. But I told him no and refused to let him stay there. I told him, you know, the door is open. If you're hungry, if you need somebody to talk to, you know, come over, man. Make yourself fucking something to eat or whatever. But I can't let you stay here, you know.
And because you threw him out, it gave you this guilt feeling that made you.
I had a pretty real heavy I had a pretty heavy guilt trip. Yeah, that's probably the main reason I went to New York for the funeral.
Hold on one second. I lost my place here.
That happens.
The funeral. Okay. What was the result of the conversation that you had over the phone with Chink?
Well, he actually, the conversation lasted about a whole minute. He asked me if I had heard that JC was dead. I just kind of, you know, it kind of stopped me in my tracks, you know, and I go, no, what are you talking about? And he said that he just heard over the news, over the 12 o'clock news or whatever, because it was just a little afternoon, that John Carr had shot himself, or a suicide at the Minot base up there. Well, naturally, I freaked out, you know.
And when on your way to the funeral, when Jeff Sloat came out of the bar and talked to you, out of the car and talked to you, sorry, what did you say?
Well, I talked to Jeff a couple, I can remember seeing him very vividly. To try to remember what he said, it was more or less basic bullshit. It was more or less
Did he know of John's death at that time?
yes.
Did he talk about that?
No, he had heard that I was going to go to New York. And I thought that was pretty fucking weird, man. Because, like, I didn't even decide to go to New York until the day before we left. Here's the money. Let's go. All of a sudden, I just said, Darlene, we're going to New York. Here's the money. Let's go. And she managed. I'll tell you, man, I was lost. I was really out of it. I mean, you want to talk about a guy who's smoking his brains out on dope? Hey, I was. I couldn't understand. I couldn't bring myself to face the fact that I had let the guy down, you know?
Did Jeff, upon knowing that you were going to the city, to New York City, did he ask you to meet anyone there?
No.
Did he ask you to call anyone, to contact anyone there?
No. As a matter of fact, I just happened to see him on the street, which is pretty weird. Because that's the only time I had ever seen him on the street, ever, except for in his house. That's the very first time, except this. The only time I'd ever seen him on the highway, on the street. Then he said, well, I hear you're going to go to New York to JC's funeral. And I thought he was pretty weird, you know, because here I am, you know, and I mean, I was still pretty freaked out. I mean, I was freaked out completely through the whole situation. I was drinking myself to death.
When you were in Yonkers for the funeral, did you restrict your activities to the Yonkers area, or did you go to?
No, I'll tell you exactly what I did. Darlene and I arrived at the New York International Airport or whatever, whichever one it is, and we got kind of fucked over because we didn't realize that the boroughs, the taxi services charged $10 to go between boroughs. So instead of paying $12 or whatever, we had to pay 20 something bucks to get to the Yonkers Holiday Inn. And the guy didn't even know where the fuck it was. We got to the Yonkers Holiday Inn that night. The next morning at 10 was when the church opened for their services, right? Well, we got up about 8, and Darlene had kept my shit together. Man, I mean, you know, God, I can't slander the lady, man. I mean, shit, you know, she's a beautiful woman. I'm afraid. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to get my shit together with her or whatever. She kept my shit together long enough to get me dressed. I mean, I'm serious, man. I mean, I, I was lost. And to get me dressed and go on and to try and get herself together, and she got about halfway together and just she couldn't hold it no more. I mean, the guilt was real heavy between both of us because it was a shared thing.
When was this incident that you threw him out, that you wouldn't let him sleep there?
Um,
Was it soon before his suicide?
yeah.
How soon?
Mm, Immediately prior, you see.
When he came.
You see, JC was coming over sparsely, every now and then when he thought that he'd come over and be cool.
Was it before he was in the hospital for the 8 days in January?
No, no,
It was after that.
yes.
What was it when he came back from New York?
Yeah, I believe. Which time are you talking about?
Well, he went to the hospital. He stayed in the hospital for about a week.
Right. And then he went home.
Then he went home?
Right.
Okay, give me a sec. Then he came back unexpectedly.
Right. Then he came home and he had that silver blue mark. It was all fucked up. It had to be a bad lifter, and I was going to fix it for him. It had a bad lifter that I was going to fix, and he was coming out. It seemed to me like he'd only come out a couple, maybe 4 or 5 times at the very most, and he'd come out and he'd be really jittery.
I just want to clarify one point. It is now 8:50 and I'm continuing this interview with Mr. Taylor. Okay, we were talking about when you were in New York.
Right.
Okay, what did you do when you were in New York? Who did you meet?
We got the cab straight to Yonkers Holiday Inn. We stayed there that night. We didn't even leave the motel room. We had dinner brought up to us. That morning, Darlene got my shit together. I tried to help her get her shit together, but from keeping my shit together for so long and holding herself in, she just lost it.
Okay, who did you see there? Did you know anyone at the funeral besides Darlene?
No, I didn't know anyone at the funeral.
How long were you there?
I was the whole time. I had got there
3 days. How long were you in New York?
2 days.
2 days. Okay. What did you do in the evening after the parlor closed?
Okay. Well, this is how it went. We got there. We got there that night, went to the motel. I went to the Yonkers Holiday Inn, passed out, got up. The funeral started at 10. I had my shit together. Darlene lost it. I got a cab over to I didn't even know what church it was. I had flowers sent there and all that shit. They were kind of weirded up because, here's flowers from Tom and Darlene from mine aunt. And Mike realized that, here's somebody back here, man, who's freaking out, and
Mike O'Connor.
right.
Mike Carr, rather.
Mike Carr.
Carr.
Right. That was the first time I ever met the guy.
Did anyone you spoke to there mention Berkowitz or that whole scenario with Berkowitz and the son of Sam?
No, no. I talked to Richie Folk. I think his name is spelled Folk.
Who is he?
He was a good friend of JC's. He was a musician, I guess. He told me he was a musician. I don't know. I didn't see him play or nothing. He gave me his phone number and his address and all this other shit, but I threw that all away. No, I might still have that. His name is Richie Folk.
And he's from Yonkers.
Right. He was from Yonkers. He works in a transmission shop out on some place. He was the guy who actually drove me down to where the burial was and all that crap.
And did he mention the Berkowitz incident?
No, we talked.
No one at the funeral mentioned the Berkowitz incident.
No, When we got back to the house, I didn't really want to drink that much.
Did you go to a bar at all?
No, no, not until then. No, I have been totally straight, completely straight.
You weren't at any bars
No,
while you were in New York?
not until after the funeral was over and we went back to the Carr house. They had about every kind of booze you can imagine there in half-gallon bottles.
Did you speak to anyone there?
I spoke to everyone there.
Did you mention that you were from Minot when you were there?
Oh, yeah, they all knew who I was because,
At John Carr's funeral?
see, John had talked about me. See, John and I had planned on going to California together, because I wanted to try and find some people that really, really could play, because I can fucking play a guitar, man. Fucking well. I mean, I'm not trying to brag or anything, but I make most of the turkeys around this town look like shit. But anyway, so when he had gone home, like he had gone home since then and talked to his folks, and his sister had come up and met me, right? Whatever her name is.
Wheat.
Mickey.
Wheat Mickey Carr?
Mickey. Yeah, I never knew her as Wheat. I knew her as, that's all. She's kind of jumpy. I met her at the Falcon's Nest one night. Anyway, Mike went in and mixed me a drink, and I was asking for a whiskey Coke, and I don't know what he did with the Coke. I think he popped the top of the Coke and sprinkled whatever was in the cap onto the glass, because I got really fucked up. I had about 4 or 5 of those sons of bitches. We were all.
What was that powder that he put into the drink? Do you know? What did he tap into the glass?
Oh, it was just whiskey, period.
Okay.
What I mean is, you know how you order like a triple in a small glass and you.
Phone rings. It is now approximately 5 to 9, and I'm continuing the conversation with Tom Taylor. You were saying that Mike O'Connor had made some strong drinks. Mike O'Connor.
Mike O'Connor. Oh, wait, the phone rings. Mike. Oh, you were saying, Mike O'Connor, right. Yeah, no shit. And he didn't drink. He was drinking Coke and feeding the rest of us. Just me and Rich were there, hanging on to each other. I mean, I got so drunk that I actually kissed his. I was, well, at the time I had no idea about this Son of Sam shit being linked in there. I had no idea about the occult crap being linked in there.
But
the only thing that I was thinking about was John, as a person. I felt pretty fucking bad, And, so I talked to his mom a little bit, and me and Mike went upstairs and talked, and I'll be damned if I can remember what we talked about.
But no one mentioned the whole Berkowitz affair while you were there that you can remember?
Mike talked about drugs.
What did he say?
He said that he thought that John was involved in a lot of drugs, and that was probably what had happened, why it had happened.
Did Mike O'Connor ever mention the Phoenix house?
Mike Carr, you mean?
Mike Carr, yes. Did he ever mention the Phoenix house?
No.
Did you ever hear of that place?
I heard the name. Yeah, sure. They got Phoenix houses in Hawaii. Yeah.
You never heard of, did John Carr ever say that he was in a drug rehab center in New York?
No.
Did he?
As far as I know, John, I met him when he was in the Air Force, as far as I could tell. The son of a bitch had never done drugs in his life. I mean, he was pretty raw to the situation, as my first impressions of the guy. But all of a sudden, he was showing up with 100 milligrams of Thorazine pH and Maravril pH. I don't know what Maravril is.
Do you know where he was getting them from?
No, I don't.
Do you know if?
I know he was going to New York and getting them back.
Do you know if Craig O'Connor ever?
No. Craig didn't know about it.
Slip any drugs from the emergency room?
No, never. Well, no, I can't say that I don't. I can't say that he never did because I don't know. You see, I didn't know Craig at that time because I didn't think John was going. You see, John was still in the Air Force, and I thought that he met Linda after he got out and wasn't going to school. But then I really don't know. I don't know.
Did you ever? Do you know? And then that's where it all ends. So, Eric, before we get into my analysis of this, because I certainly don't want to pre-prejudice you. You and I have not really talked about this and our thoughts about it. I want you just real quick, just to explain to Gwen, we're taking artistic license here. We're not trying to get the Minot accent exact. So I'm curious as to your thoughts, and then I'll give the audience mine.
Well, obviously, Queens County went out there because they were let out there because of something that had been linked to the Son of Sam case and David Berkowitz, and that the Carrs were involved. And he also inquires about Mike Carr. Now, the inquiry of Mike Carr could be what Hank Chinotti had told me, that he wanted to eventually arrest Michael Carr.
Right.
That's what he told me. The second thing is that I get the sense that Armienti is trying to make him speak about Michael Carr, but also this Mike Connor. O'Connor. He's playing a game. It's Craig O'Connor, but is there a Mike O'Connor? And then when he's asking him a question, he says, and so Mike O'Connor made these drinks or something, and Taylor doesn't correct him and say Mike Carr. He corrects him the second time.
Right.
So I'm not being malicious, but I think he's trying to get at something by mixing the names.
It's possible. Maybe he was trying to just see whether this guy's memory was at all, because if you read this document, it seems like he was even contradicting how effed up he was on drugs. He was talking about how he couldn't get his shit together, how Darlene had to dress him, but then he's saying that he was perfectly straight. He wasn't into a bar or drinking until after the thing. Of course, he might have been messed up on other drugs that morning as well. I mean, it's all really kind of a confused muddle.
It's weird.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, something's very weird that hit me just now.
Yeah.
In doing it, after having read it several times. Jeff Sloat. How did Jeff Sloat know he was going to go to New York?
Well, that's a good question. Tom Taylor was surprised that this guy Jeff knew he was going to New York. So listen, Jeff isn't the most reliable person. He had to have told somebody. And then, You
mean Tom Taylor told somebody?
Sorry, Tom. Right, Tom probably he would have to have told somebody that.
Now, when Jeff said he was going to New York, doesn't he also say he met Jeff in New York?
No.
Jeff didn't notice him in New York?
No. The Armienti asks him if Jeff asked him to bring anything to New York. I think the implication there was, were you a drug mule? Right.
So the thing is this: if he wasn't spaced out, and he says sometimes he doesn't have a memory or he's not exact, did he tell people he was going, or was he not? Or did he not tell people? It seems that he and Darlene seem to almost be secluded.
True, but somehow or other, this cat knew he was going to New York, so that information could have only come from him.
And he found it weird.
Yeah, I mean, I just figure, but I mean, I don't think it's really that relevant to the overall proceedings of this. Do you have any other thoughts before I?
I'm just curious as to why Jeff's family name is redacted, and then all of a sudden they don't redact it.
No, I believe they redacted it through the whole thing. They never put in Sloat.
Yeah, they do put Sloat in the last time.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, Sloat is put in the last time. So I'm curious why.
Find that page for me.
I will. I'm looking through.
I'm looking now. I'll just let the audience do it too. It would have had to have been when he was talking about going to the funeral, which would have been page. Yeah. John's death. Jeff. No. No. It doesn't really matter anyway.
Okay.
Jeff is not a major part of this.
Yeah,
We
I'm
all
just
squint
curious.
together.
Oh, here it is. It's page 29.
Okay, hold on.
And Armienti mentions Jeff Sloat.
Slow. Yeah, you're right. Well, they mentioned it the whole time. It's just whoever redacted it forgot to redact it in this page.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So anyway, guys, my thoughts. Huh?
Who is Chink?
I don't know. Just local people from.
Mm-hmm.
So Jack says here something very, very important, and I'm going to answer this. So the question starts to become how much of this was connected to the occult and how much to drugs. Well, here's, I think, the most instructive. Hold on. I don't remember exactly what page it's on, but it was just like in Yonkers. Tom Taylor says, Jack, he says, I didn't even realize any of this occult stuff was going on until you guys came out here. So in other words, no one knew Jack. No one knew Jack S about occult stuff until the cops started coming in and telling them that there was occult stuff. I had the same experience in Yonkers when I started this video series last year. I was asking people, hey, what about the 22 disciples of hell? And I figured everybody would have known about them. Not one person ever heard of occult stuff, satanic cult, called them 22 disciples of hell. No one ever heard of a Son of Sam cult. It was eerily similar to this. So, Jack, what I think is it was all drugs. North Dakota was all about drugs, in my opinion. So anyway, real quick, my analysis, because it's not that hard and heavy. Again, today was entertainment and also a little glimpse into people and personalities. But we do get some information in here that I would like to discuss. And please, Eric, if you have anything to say, please,
there's one thing.
Yeah.
One thing. Did Armienti know at this time or not that Chinotti, when he was in North Dakota, had done a reenactment, because he was a top homicide detective forensically, that Carr was murdered and did not commit suicide?
I don't know any of that timeline at all. That's beyond my knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So here's basically what I gleaned out of these passages. And again, the biggies in this North Dakota document are the Reeve Rockman stuff, which we've covered, and we've proven conclusively that they were not talking about an accountant from Queens who John Carr had his notebook, his picture in his wallet. They said it was a picture from a North Dakota paper. We've also debunked the whole notion that John Carr drew the Son of Sam symbol. Right, those were the big takeaways in this document. But the following analysis on the relatively minor stuff that we heard today is, well, one, John was an extreme drug addict. He was an extreme drug user, and he was also a drug pipeliner. He was bringing in major narcotics from New York, according to Tom Taylor. And this was shit that he had never seen before. He didn't even know what some of it was.
And to be specific, he says, do you know where he got them from? And in his colloquial English, Tom Taylor says, from New York, but meaning he took them from New York. He brought them from New York, but he didn't know who his supplier was.
Right, exactly. He was just getting them from New York, which would make sense that New York would have a better drug connections than, Sleepy Minot, North Dakota. So I think that was an important thing. I mean, Jeff says in this transcript that he was extremely into drugs. That's pretty heavy duty to say someone's extremely into drugs. And, we already learned about John Carr's paranoia, him thinking that cop cars were chasing him. I mean, this was a paranoid guy who was on the verge of a major breakdown and ended up most likely committing suicide.
But
So,
oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
so real quick, so I just don't see him as a co-conspirator in Son of Sam.
I don't necessarily see him as a co-conspirator in Son of Sam, but he was involved in criminal activity, and something frightened him. Because, Manny, if he's bringing back these very heavy drugs from New York to North Dakota,
Mhm.
it is possible that something went wrong and he was scared of a person.
Oh, absolutely. But
You know,
that,
the guy in the middle car that was not one of the cop cars.
well, he's saying that that guy Reeve Rockman was driving that car. I mean, come on, Eric.
Does he say Reeve Rockman? In what?
Yeah, yeah. He said that's the guy. He's driving that car. That whole thing was a delusion of a delusion of his paranoid mind.
And where does he get the name Reeve Rockman, though?
He didn't. That's a pseudonym that Maury Terry came up with. The real name, as we're learning, was Steve. Now, I've heard two last names. I don't think either one of them was involved. So I'm not going to slander the two people
No,
who are living today with these names. But these names are in some new recordings that we've just found out about, which we'll talk about in a second.
and the tragedy for John Carr. I knew a boy on Meadowmere Park. He was like the most patriotic, clean-cut kid. Mickey Mantle, My Country 'Tis of These. He went in the Navy. This is a guy who wouldn't even want to be around people smoking marijuana, and he came back blowing dope and preaching Mao Zedong. And he got that influence from being in the United States Navy.
Yeah, I mean, listen, my friend told me that when he was in the Army, this was 1996. He was stationed somewhere in Missouri, and that every night there were satanic cult rituals happening, and with him and his people. He just went for kicks. He wasn't into it, but he had nothing else to do, so he would just go and hang out with these people in the middle of the woods. So yeah, all this stuff occurs, but it does not necessarily mean, connected to mass murder in New York City. I want to hit my next point. Wheat comes off as totally normal in this. I know, guys, those of you who are still stuck in the mindset given to you in 1987 that Wheat Carr is a getaway driver. I know that you think that she was a shooter in Voskerichian. I know that you think that she was Berkowitz's military intelligence handler and that Sam Carr. I know you think all that stuff. But the simple fact of the matter is, through the research we've done, the people we've spoken to, and, well, quite frankly, certain conversations we've had with certain people, I'm fairly confident in my pronouncement that Wheat was victimized by Maury Terry as well as the whole Carr family. Now, I could be wrong about that, but my assumption now is that Wheat is innocent of Son of Sam, completely innocent. She was a victim, and in this transcript, we don't see her as anything other than perfectly normal.
When did Maury Terry first victimize her? It wasn't in the book, was it?
No, it was all these salacious rumors that were coming out in the 90s. And I guess and also in the 2000s, he was telling people, people on Facebook were going back and forth about how Wheat's a shooter in this, and just, again, getting back to Lavenda's innuendos. Maury must, through his alter ego Trudy Zeke, must have gone on an innuendo campaign against.
Remember what Hank Ginotti told me? The accusation of her being involved, which I do not believe, and I always said that going back to the August 13th show and on the first Manny Monday, I never said she was guilty, but the accusation was passed on as an allegation by Maury Terry to Hank Ginotti. That's where he claims he got it from.
So Maury Terry got it from David Berkowitz. Right. Now, Maury Terry probably gave that to Berkowitz, and then Berkowitz gave it back to him. I mean, let's be honest about Maury Terry's methodology. That's the most likely scenario here.
I can accept that, but then what about the story you reminded me of? Not in trying to say that Maury Terry didn't feed it to him, but it's a juxtaposition that the story that Berkowitz was looking for Wheat Carr in a biker's bar with a gun.
That's still a mystery. Now, you could chalk it up to two things. He was stalking this family, and August 6th was 5 days before his arrest. It was when there was a mad rush of activity happening in Yonkers, all converging on him. It's very possible he was going there to kill her with a wig and a gun on, and he knew her nickname, right? Or he knew her. somehow, and Wheat Car's been lying the whole time, and she actually was involved. I mean, I don't think that that's the case. I think that that police report, there's still a mystery to that police report, but I think that, you know, it's probably an more innocent explanation on her part.
Here's an idea.
Could be wrong.
In what period? Was it before the Son of Sam slayings that he went to want to kill her, according to this?
No, it was 5 days before his arrest.
Okay. And she was a police dispatcher. Maybe
Right.
he knew from somebody that she was working on the case.
Right. Or just somehow became obsessed with this family and found out things about them. I mean, it's very possible. I know it was 77. It wasn't as easy to find things out, but, you know, someone could have, I could see him asking around and finding out her nickname. I mean, you know, people in Yonkers, you know, they talk to each other. Mickey. Yeah. Maybe he heard it in the supermarket line talking about Mickey Carr. And she was known around town as Mickey. She never went by Wheat, as we're going to learn in the next couple of weeks. Wheat never was known by Wheat. She was known as Mickey around town. So it's not hard for him to have found out her name is Mickey if he didn't know her. That's all I'm saying. But listen,
Logical.
Huh?
I think you're logical.
Wheat comes off as totally normal in this, as does Mike Carr. Okay. Now, we're going to learn a lot about Mike Carr in the next couple of weeks. Some things that we're going to announce have come through, and there's some interesting things going on that we've just learned. And Mike Carr we're going to learn a lot more about him. Mike Carr in this transcript comes off as caring, right? He cared that Tom was crying. He mixed him a drink. He came up and spoke to him. He mixed them strong drinks. Okay. I have heard that Mike Carr was a partier and liked to have a fun time. That could be part of that. Right. But nowhere does Mike come off. They even try to bring in the Scientology stuff with the Phoenix House and all this kind of stuff and the drug.
Wait, Phoenix House is Scientology?
No, that's my mistake. Sorry, that's my error. Thanks for correcting me. Phoenix House is drug rehabilitation, so they did not ask about Scientology. But Mike comes off as totally normal, and hey, not one mention of Son of Sam, Berkowitz, or anything having to do with the Son of Sam, the shootings, the local crimes. Mike Armenti, Eric, asked every which way but Sunday. Did anyone talk about Berkowitz? When you were in the car with Richie Folk alone, did he talk about Berkowitz? Did anyone talk about Son of Sam? It didn't come up once.
Did you ever hear the name Richie Folk before?
No, I have not heard the name Richie Folk before.
Yeah, nor Chink. Also, there's something, though. There was an intimacy, though, and I'm not saying this means guilt on the part of Michael Carr, between Michael Carr and Thomas Taylor. I mean, perhaps grateful that somebody came all the way from out west to his brother's wake and funeral. But what that's very strange. He says, I kissed his, and he stops. What does he mean he kissed?
That's funny. It's hilarious, actually. He got so drunk that he kissed his. I would love to know what he kissed.
Yeah, and then they went. Now, by what I'm about to say, I'm not referring to anything sexual, please. But they went alone to talk. Now, he said he talked to everybody there, but he was alone with Michael Carr to have a discussion upstairs.
Right.
From everyone.
Right. Well, maybe one day we'll know the results of that conversation, but I highly doubt it.
Yeah.
So, Eric, I think that it's time to announce to the audience something that I was keeping not a secret, because everybody in the chat knows about this already, but I didn't want all of you guys to to just leave our broadcast today and go to the website that I'm going to tell you about in a second. So today I woke up. Let me just get the website ready here. Sorry, give me a second here. So today I woke up and it was just a normal day in Son of Sam land. Nothing major to report. As you guys know, I'm not investigating anymore, and I'm not actively going out and looking for material and all that kind of stuff. Things just sort of come to me. But today I got word that, somebody out there, and whoever this person is, I don't care if you're a friend or a foe, you're a hero in the Son of Sam community, and I want you to come forward and name who you are, because you deserve a lot of praise. This is probably, besides the work that we've done for the last year, me and my team, I would say this is probably the most important thing that's ever happened in Son of Sam investigative history ever. Maybe this even surpasses what we've done, because this is actual recordings now. So somebody went out and found all of the actual recordings, the tapes. Yes, you heard me. The tapes of all of the Queens District Attorney interviews. I'm going to put the link right now in the chat. Now watch how many people leave our thing. 90 watching now. I'm going to watch that number go down to like 60, right?
And the 3 interviews with Chinotti before he was demoted.
Chinotti, right? Chinotti. Let's go look at this. Let's go look at this together. So give me a second here. Give me a second here. Sorry. Stop sharing. Screen share. Window. Boom. Boom. So this is amazing stuff, guys. In this document, we have Chinotti interviewed. We have Fred Deagle. This is an incredibly important interview. This is a friend of, an enemy of Wheat Carr, I should say, but who was in the house when the dog was shot and talks all about it and confirms, I might add, Mike Lorenzo's analysis. Even though Mike and I were flying blind, he was just doing his thing as an investigator, as a former detective. Fred Deagle in 79 said things that we concluded in 2022. We have Lomino. We have John Comparetto, the person we just had the other day on the air. He was interviewed by the Queens DA in 1979. We have Patrick O'Shaughnessy on tape. Now, I say we. I did not find this stuff. This is stuff that was given to me today. I put an article, email out to the person who found this stuff, congratulating them, and I want them to come forward. Because as you all know, I do not take credit for work that I didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
Phil Falcon. And guess what? We even have Tommy Zano interviewed. And guess what? If you guys listen to this, number 53, and you go to the 851 mark, I'm going to put that in. Tommy Zano, 851. You will hear him say twice, very clearly and very emphatically, that David Berkowitz shot Stacy Moskowitz. He's not unclear about it at all.
And this is so thorough, these files. There's even the name that you have discounted, I believe, Bobby Desenko.
Right, Bobby Desenko, the so-called person who was accused of shooting Stacy Moskowitz. We have Roger Flood, Roger Woods, who was Roger Flood in The Ultimate Evil, who was at a dinner party and said Berkowitz was in a cult. Listen to this 10-minute interview with Roger Woods where he emphatically denies saying that. He said he never said it. He has no idea what this guy's even talking about. And we also have Wheat Carr. We have 50 minutes of Wheat Carr talking, and we have 50 minutes of her family being interviewed by the Queens DA, where they talk all about the Harvey Carr shooting. They talk all about John Carr, Michael Carr. They talk all about Son of Sam. And let me tell you something. We are going to spend the next 2 months, guys, going through these recordings in the most granulated detail possible. And you know what's going to be the best thing about our series as opposed to anyone else online who's going to analyze these? Well, hey, I can get John Comparetto to react to his own video. I can get John R., who was on our show the other night, who was mentioned in Patrick O'Shaughnessy's recording. I can get him to come on and react. We're going to have people on here reacting to these things with first degree separations from this stuff. You will never get the analysis that we can get. Okay? Thank God I came back into the Son of Sam game, because this stuff might as well have been thrown into the trash bin of history.
That's the thing I noticed. It was kept from you.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it was, go ahead.
Somebody put it up. They didn't send it to you. A friend sent it to you.
Correct. Just like the North Dakota documents, all this stuff went up, and I don't know whether this was directed to not be sent to me, but I'm no longer in the war with these idiots. If they want to make fun of me all they want, that's fine. That they can do that. But
I want to play something else. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm no longer in a war with them. But why don't we play the audience, Eric, the relevant portion of the tape that we just did?
Yeah, but I got to point something out. You showed them the excellent website where everything, all the tapes play, the
I
Internet
I
Archive,
put the link in the chat.
the Internet Archive. But
Yes.
did you give them the link to the man who also has written documents? He also has a page.
No, because they're not up yet.
Oh, I see. I
And also
see.
half the stuff on his website doesn't even work.
That's right. Only one Chinotti of 3 interviews works.
Right. So I downloaded all these recordings. If anybody has a problem, just email me and I'll get you any recording. But again, listen, people are congratulating me for this. I didn't find these, right? Someone else did this work. Now, clearly someone did this work in reaction to my work, because if you go to the original website, they say I'm not doing this as a subscription or for pay, right? Which is a dig at me. But I don't care. The work was done definitely because of the infrastructure that we built and influencing other people to go out and go do this work. So, the amount of material we have learned as a community about these crimes is unprecedented. And now the analysis we're going to get is unprecedented. I am so looking forward to this, Eric.
I can't wait. I just can't wait to hear everybody. But I'm interested in the 3, I think it's 3 hours of interviews with Chinotti.
You and I are going to this weekend figure out our first pop-up on this, because we're going to do a show, me and you, on the Chinotti recording. So someone said play Wheat. Go listen to the Wheat tapes. I want everyone to listen to these tapes. I want you to listen to them 5,000 times, because that way when we analyze them, we're all going to have a much more rich experience, right? I'm into like, I didn't get these files. I'm not the one who discovered these, but I will be the one to first tell you, read freely, share, right? Don't be like the people who kept information from me. This is all about the case. Now, having said that, and I don't want to pre-prejudice you too much, these tapes are absolutely, in my opinion, devastating for Maury Terry's thesis. Absolutely 100% knockdown nuclear bomb devastation. I haven't listened to all of them yet, but the ones I have completely show Maury. And there's even an interview of Maury Terry in these things.
2 interviews, I think.
Right. Where he comes off as evasive, secretive, controlling, domineering, and he's speaking to a district attorney of Queens acting that way. So anyhow, let's listen to these. Tell me, guys in the audience, if you can hear this.
Because when we were living at the Virginia Apartments, one of his big things was to come over there and borrow the phone.
Was he heavily involved in drugs, JC?
Extremely.
Do you know where he got his drugs?
No, I don't.
Was it of the quality usually found in this area?
No, not at all. It was very excellent. I mean, I'm not bragging or anything, but I know good drugs when I try it, and he had some shit that was ass kicking.
He didn't say where he got that from?
No.
Did you ever get any drugs from Jeff Sloat?
No, I never did.
Do you know anyone who got drugs from Jeff Sloat?
No, I don't believe that I do. Of course, see, now you gotta understand that the only reason that I knew Jeff.
Now everybody's saying in the chat it sounds like Jim Fay. You know what? It does sound like Jim Fay.
Was because JC and him were living together in the same place, and that's the only contact that I ever had with him. Except one time, when I was going to New York to the funeral, seen Jeff on the street one day. He actually stopped and got out and talked to me. And he
was Jeff still in the Air Force? That would be
yes.
February of 1978
right.
or March of 1978. March of 1978.
No. It was yeah. Either January or February.
Well, John died
what was the day?
February 23rd.
Okay, then it must have been around the all right.
Well,
okay.
I'm not sure.
See, like I say, I'm real bad with dates.
Mm-hmm.
Real bad with dates. I talked to as a matter of fact, I didn't even know that John had come back in town. I knew he had come back to see us. Darlene and I were living on the east side of the States, and he was saying that he He was going back home because his dad wanted him to help build upstairs or some bullshit. And they had, his sister had some kind of phone answering service or whatever. And he was going to go back home and get his act together with his folks because Linda had agreed to marry him and they were going to do all this shit. And the next thing I knew, I don't even know what date it was. It must have been a Friday or something. What day did he die?
I'm not sure of the date.
Okay. Well, whatever it was, he shot himself the day before. And about noon the next day, I got called by a guy named Chink. And I don't know what his real name is because, God, I never have. And he called me and asked me if I knew that JC had come back to town. And I go, no, shit, I thought he was in New York.
What do you know about Chink?
He's a normal dude,
Was he involved in any cult activity that you know?
Not that I know of. But see, you gotta understand,
Listen right
I
here.
didn't even realize that the cult activity was being carried on until just recently.
Right there is a huge thing that he just said. I didn't even realize the cult activity was being done until just recently. And in other words, I didn't know this until you guys came out here and told me. It's exactly what I heard in Yonkers a million times. All right, let's carry on.
One
I
thing.
mean, I'm talking about the last month,
Mm-hmm.
And at that time I thought, wow, man, well, Darlene freaked out because I freaked out, I had a real heavy guilt trip, so did she. See, JC had come out to our house quite a few times and damn near got on his hands and knees and begged me just to let him fucking sleep in the corner of the house, just so he could have somebody there around him all the time to talk to and shit, But Darlene was so afraid of him because of the way he had acted when we were living at Virginia Apartments and shit, that I told him no, and refused to let him stay there. I told him, the door's open if you're hungry, if you need somebody to talk to, come over, man, make yourself fucking something to eat or whatever, but I can't let you stay here,
And because you threw him out, it gave you this guilt feeling
I had
that
a
made you attempt
pretty
to do
real heady, I had a pretty heavy guilt trip, yeah. That's probably the main reason I went to New York for the funeral.
Okay, what was the result of the conversation that you had over the phone with Chink?
Well, actually the conversation lasted about a whole minute. He asked me if I had heard that JC was dead. And I just kind of, I kind of stopped me in my tracks, and I go, no, what are you talking about? And he said that he had just heard over the news, over 12 o'clock news or whatever, because it was just a little afternoon, that John Carr had shot himself or suicided at the Minot base up there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, naturally I freaked out,
And when, on your way to the funeral, when Jeff Sloat
Well,
came
no,
out
I
of the
talked to
car and
Jeff a
spoke to
couple-
you, what did he say?
I can remember seeing him very vividly. To try to remember what he said, it was more or less basic bullshit. It was more or less,
Did he know of John's death at that time?
yes.
Did he talk about that?
No, somehow he had heard that I was going to go to New York. And I thought it was pretty fucking weird, man, because, I didn't even decide to go to New York until the day before we left. All of a sudden, I just said, Darlene, we're going to New York. Here's the money, let's go. And she managed, I'll tell you, man, I was lost. I was really out of it. I mean, you want to talk about a guy smoking his brains out on dope? Hey, I was. I couldn't understand. I couldn't bring myself to face the fact that I had let the guy down,
Mm-hmm. Did Jeff, upon knowing that you were going to the city, to New York City, did he ask you to meet anyone there?
No.
Did he ask you to call anyone, to contact anyone there?
No. No, as a matter of fact, all he I just happened to see him on the street, which was pretty weird because it's the only time I had ever seen him on the street, ever. Except for in his house. It's the very first time it's the only time I'd ever seen him on the highway, on the street. And he said, well, I hear you're going to go to New York to JC's funeral. And I thought it was kind of weird, you know, because here I am, you know, and I mean, I was still pretty freaked out. I mean, I was freaked out completely through the whole situation. I was drinking myself to death.
When you were in Yonkers for the funeral, did you restrict your activities to the Yonkers area? Did you go to Manhattan?
No, I'll tell you exactly what I did. Darlene and I arrived at the New York International Airport, or whatever, whichever one it is, and we got kind of fucked over because we didn't realize that the boroughs, the taxi services, charged $10 to go between boroughs. So instead of paying $12 or whatever, we had to pay 20-something bucks, you know, to get to the Yonkers Holiday Inn, and the guy didn't even know where the fuck it was. We got to the Yonkers Holiday Inn that night. The next morning at 10 o'clock was when the church opened for their services, right? Well, we got up about 8, and Darlene had kept my shit together, man. I mean, you know, God, I can't slander the lady, man. I mean, shit, you know. She's a beautiful woman, you know. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to get my shit together with her or whatever, you know. She kept my shit together long enough to get me dressed. I mean, I'm serious, man. I mean, I was lost. And to get me dressed and go in and try to get herself together, and she got about halfway together and just, she couldn't hold it in no more, you know. I mean, the guilt was real heavy between both of us. Because we, you know, it was a shared thing, you know.
When was this incident that you threw him out of, that you wouldn't let him sleep there? Was it soon before his suicide?
Yeah.
How soon?
Immediately prior. You see,
when he came.
You see, JC was coming over sparsely, you know, every now and then when he thought that he could come over and be cool, you know.
Was it before he was in the hospital for the 8 days in January?
No.
It was after that?
Yes.
Was it when he came back from New York?
Yeah, I believe. Well, which time are you talking about?
Well, he went to the hospital. He stayed in the hospital for about a week.
Then he went home.
Then he went home.
Right.
Then he came back
Right.
unexpectedly.
Then he came home, and then he had that silver blue Merc. It was all fucked up. It had a bad lifter, and I was gonna try to fix it for him. And he was coming out. It seemed to me like he only come out a couple, maybe 4 or 5 times at the very most. And he'd come out, and he'd be really jittery.
I just want to clarify one point. It is now 8:50, and I'm continuing the interview with Mr. Taylor.
Good question.
Okay, go. We were talking about when you were in New York.
Right.
Okay. What did you do when you were in New York? Who did you meet?
We got the cab straight to Yonkers Holiday Inn. We stayed there that night. We didn't even leave the motel room. We had dinner brought up to us. That morning, Darlene got my shit together. I tried to help her get her shit together, but, you know, from keeping my shit together for so long and holding herself in, you know, she just lost it, you know.
Okay, who did you see there? Did you know anyone at the funeral besides
No,
Darlene?
I didn't know anyone at the funeral.
How long were you there?
I was the whole time. I got
3
there.
days. How long were you in New York?
2 days.
2 days. Okay. Did you? What did you do in the evening after the parlor closed?
Okay. Well, this is how it went. We got there. We got there at night. Went to the motel, or went to the Yonkers Holiday Inn. Passed out. Got up. The funeral started at 10. I had my shit together. Darlene lost it. I got a cab over to the. I knew you know what church it was. I had flowers sent there and all that good shit. They were kind of weirded out because here's flowers from Tom and Darlene from Minot, and Mike realized that here's somebody back here, man, who's freaking out,
Mike O'Connor?
Right.
Mike Carr, rather.
Mike Carr.
Mike Carr.
Right. It's the first time I ever met the guy.
Did anyone you spoke to there mention Berkowitz or that whole scenario with Berkowitz and the son of Sam?
No. I talked to Richie Folk. I think his name was spelled F-O-L-K.
Who was he?
He was a good friend of JC's. He was a musician, I guess. He told me he was a musician. I don't know. I didn't see him play or nothing. He gave me his phone number and his address and all this good shit, but I threw that all away. No, I might still have that. His name was Richie Folk.
He's from Yonkers?
Right, he was from Yonkers. He worked in a transmission shop down in someplace. He was the guy who actually drove me down to where the burial was and all that crap. And
did he mention the Berkowitz incident?
No. No, we talked.
No one at the funeral mentioned the Berkowitz.
No. When we got back to the house, I didn't really want to drink that much.
Did you go to a bar at all?
No. Not until then. No, I had been totally straight. Completely straight.
You weren't at any bars while you were in New
York?
Not
until after the funeral was all over and we went back to the Carr house. They had about every kind of booze you can imagine there. And half-gallon bottles.
Did you speak to anyone there?
I spoke to everyone there.
Did you mention that you were from Minot?
Oh yeah, they all knew who I was.
Cause John Carr.
See, John had talked about me. See, John and I had planned on going to California together. Because I wanted to try and find some people that really could play, because I can fucking play guitar, man, fucking whoa. I mean, I'm not trying to brag or anything, but I make most of the turkeys around this town look like shit. But anyway.
It's great.
So when he had gone home, he had gone home since then and talked to his folks, and his sister had come up and met me, right? Whatever her name is,
Wheat?
Mickey.
Mickey Carr.
Mickey, yeah. I never knew her as Wheat. I knew her as, that's what she's kind of chumpy. I met her at the Falcon's Nest one night. Anyway, Mike went in and mixed me a drink, and I was asking for a whiskey Coke. I don't know what to do with the Coke. I think he popped the top of the Coke and sprinkled whatever was in the cap into my glass because I got really fucked up. I had about 4 or 5 of them son of bitches.
What was that powder that he put in the drink? What did he tap into the glass?
Oh, it was just whiskey.
Oh,
period.
Okay.
What I mean is, you know how you order like a triple, in a small glass, and you. Okay.
It is now approximately 5 to 9, and I'm continuing the conversation with Tom Taylor. You were saying that Mike O'Connor had made some strong drinks.
Yeah, no shit. And he didn't drink. He was drinking Coke and feeding the rest of us just. Me and Rich were there hanging on to each other. I mean, I got so drunk that I actually kissed his,
Say it.
Well, I at the time I had no idea about this Son of Sam shit being linked in there. I had no idea about the occult crap being linked in there.
Yeah, but
the only thing that I was thinking about was John, as a person. I felt pretty fucking bad, And, so I talked to his mom a little bit, and me and Mike went upstairs and talked. And I'll be damned if I can remember what we talked about.
But no one mentioned the whole Berkowitz affair while you were there, that you can remember.
Mike talked about drugs.
What did he say?
He said that he thought that John was involved in a lot of drugs. And that that was probably what had happened, why it had happened.
Did Mike O'Connor ever mention the Phoenix House?
Mike
Carr, yes. Did he ever mention the Phoenix House?
No.
Did you ever hear that
I've
place?
heard the name, yeah, sure. They've got Phoenix houses in Hawaii, yeah.
All right, I think that's pretty much it. We don't really need to go through. We're almost done with them with this particular thing. So yeah, it's very, very interesting. And of course, John is correct, and he speaks for everybody. Thanks to whoever for releasing these things. Major, major work. Of course, whoever did release these things, I hope you guys didn't think that it was going to prove the ultimate evil, because so far, out of every tape that I've played and every tape that I've played for my people here, we are not very impressed with the thesis of the ultimate evil. But in either case, Eric, thoughts?
It just makes, I almost can't think, but yet I want to think a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's so much to think about, but I don't know where to start. I'm being honest.
Well, this one is very interesting. So Gwen brings up the Fred Deagle interview is extremely important. This was a guy who did not like Wheat Car, who actually said that he couldn't stand her, but yet perfectly normal, not involved with Son of Sam. He was there when Harvey was shot. He confirmed a lot of the stuff that Mike Lorenzo and I surmised. So interesting stuff in this one.
Who was Deagle now? Was he investigator or?
No. Fred Deagle apparently was a contractor who was working in the car house, and was friends with the car milieu. Not with the cars, but he was friends with a cat named Jim Faulkner, whose name has come up as guilty in Son of Sam also. But the guy was just a bartender, a friend of the, again, painted with this broad brush. But that's how he was brought to the house. So he was putting in some sheetrock when Harvey Carr, the dog, was shot that morning, and he has some interesting things to say about it. So anyway, yeah, this is big stuff, and we have at least another month and a half, 2 months of listening to these recordings together, analyzing them together. I know everyone out there is listening to them, and hey, that's great. I want you guys to do that. Please listen fully. But then when we do our analysis here, you guys will be fully prepared, and I like that. And of course, debate. Let's all debate. Let's have fun with this. This is the whole point. We have now information where Gary said something very important earlier. We almost don't need Berkowitz anymore to talk to him. He's almost superfluous to the whole thing. Yes, let me drop the link again. Let me see if it works here. Give me a second.
What did Gwen mean by they? Who's the they that mentioned Rockman? Gwen said
they is just the general they, the tapes. They mention Rockman. Now, I will have to say that the name in that tape, in the tapes, is, and I'm not going to say it because I don't want to slander this guy, because I know he's innocent. He was looked at this last year because we all knew his name anyway. Completely, totally unconnected to this whole thing. And then the Maury Terry people came up with another name. Another Steve. Both of these guys have the first name Steve, and neither of them are involved in any way, shape, or form in this. So anyway, Eric, any last words for the audience?
Just come forward if you have anything to offer. That's it.
Basically.
I don't know what to say. I'm almost relaxed, and yet I want to do a lot more.
Well, we are about to embark, Eric, you and I, and of course me and the cops, and we are, the detectives. We're about to embark on a major, major mission to fully analyze the hell out of every one of these tapes for you guys out there in the audience. We're going to have about 2 months worth of shows on these tapes. We're going to have the people who were first person connected to these. We're going to have John Comparetto talk about it. We're going to have him react to his video. We're going to have John R. talk about Pat O'Shaughnessy's recording. Me and Eric are going to talk about Hank Chinatti's recordings, analyze them. We're going to analyze the Wheat Car recordings, the Deagle recordings. We're going to do it all. It's going to be amazing, guys. So Eric, say goodbye, because I want to take it on out.
Take care, everybody. God bless.
Thanks, Eric. Boy, you're relaxed today.
Oh yeah.
You're so relaxed. I'm having to extract words out of you. I'm feeling like,
no, I'm thinking there's so much. I mean, you have to admit there's so much, Manny, that has come forth. I mean, I can't help thinking, and I don't know exactly what to say. There's value with Armienti and this fellow speaking to each other, but it makes me wonder. He didn't. Somebody wrote, "Drugs are secret. You keep that activity secret." Well, people keep the occult secret, depending what they're doing with the occult.
True. But listen, all we can go on in this case is not innuendo and not words out of a book, which we already know are very problematic from the year and a half we've almost done together as a community. We have to just go with what we have as the source material. And right now we have transcripts, we have letters, we have recordings, pictures from Berkowitz's apartment, police documents. I mean, what more do you want, right?
And nothing so far definitively about occult activity.
Zero, zilch. Nothing in any of the documentation have we gotten mentions anything whatsoever to do with cult activity, other accomplices, or anything. And now we're getting into the nitty gritty. We're hearing the actual voices of the people involved. So we are about to embark, me, you, everyone out there, on the mission of a lifetime in terms of Son of Sam. And by the end of this year, I really believe that as a community together, we are going to have some answers in this finally, because we're all going to reason together. We're going to analyze together. We're not going to fight. We're going to have spirited debates that are above board and friendly. If we disagree, we're not going to get disagreeable. And we are going to deal with objective facts that are on paper that we can all agree that we're looking at, finally, for the first time. Things that we can all look at and say, all right, this is something on a piece of paper that says something. This is something on a recording where I can hear something. Now, will we analyze it and interpret it according to our own biases? Absolutely. But we have to do this work. It's incredibly important. Whoever got us these recordings just added massively to the historical record. And what they've also done was complement the work that we've already done for a year and a half, setting you guys up, not setting you guys up on purpose or with a mission, but setting you guys up with all this new information that we uncovered, where now these recordings that we're going to hear and these transcripts can now be placed into a much better context, which is what I always say. Context matters.
And coherence.
And I don't think that we are in such an amazing position to finally, for the first time, have stuff that we can all look at together. And I, for one, am looking very forward to it. Eric, I'm going to take you out. Please stay on so we can say goodbye at the end.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Eric. Great show. All right, guys. Well, that was amazing. I'm really pumped. You guys can tell, right? I'm super pumped. And I didn't even eat my Amelanchier berries today. In either case, my friends, I want to say thank you so much. I want to remind you that this Manny Monday, we got the great Gary McInerney coming on. Sorry, Gary. Valentina Suriani's best friend from childhood, who has been a mainstay on our airwaves since, well, for months now. And he is also a film historian. And so we're going to analyze certain scenes in Taxi Driver where he has identified that, Berkowitz might have been influenced by this much more than the process. And of course, we also have John Comparetto confirming to me off the air the other day that absolutely he heard through his friends in 1976 that Berkowitz was loving that movie, obsessed, in fact, over the movie Taxi Driver. So we have a lot to talk about on Monday. And we are going right now in the process. So there I said the process of getting Lorenzo, John R., Jim Fay, John Comparetto, other people involved in this whole new transcript recordings from the Queen's DA. And again, let me put it in the chat again, because I want you guys to see all these things. Study, everyone out there, because we have a lot of work to do. And with that, you're not going to see me till Monday. I'm going to take the next couple days off to catch my breath and to consolidate and figure out where things are going, have a lot of behind the scenes meetings. So we will see you guys next. On Manny Monday, where Gary and I will analyze Taxi Driver. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you then.